To those who've been paying attention to politics south of the border, you've been seeing there's been a lot of chaos going on in a variety of areas. Obviously, it hasn't just been secluded to us here in Canada. Trump and Elon Musk have been causing quite a stir with their view and how they're going after USAID. And Elon Musk, as a part of his Doge project, he is discovering a lot of different things that USAID's been funding and things that have been fairly questionable. And some of which is seeing to the tune of millions of dollars being funneled to different news organizations in the United States. And people are wondering, whoa, that's kind of weird. Why was the US government paying X amount of money for just subscriptions to a news site? And why was it only specific news sites and not to all the news sites? That seems to be odd. And why did we send this much to this country? Why do we send this much to this country? And it's just becoming a huge kerfluffle going on down there right now, where there is chaos, there is protests, there's a lot of people who are upset about what is happening with the USAID situation. So what do our politicians do? What are we having fun with? Well, we know Mélanie Joly and Marie-Ange are having issues, and they've been doing a lot of walking things back lately. And the government here in Canada, our beautiful Liberal Party, has officially been trying to get ahead of these things, as one could only assume, has been trying to be proactive from their perspective. Breaking. The Global Affairs Canada has suddenly wiped their entire public database of foreign aid spending, and the data is no longer available to the public. Yo! What is happening? That is absolutely bonkers. Honestly, when this popped across our screen, I couldn't believe it. I was like, there's no way they're seeing what's going on with this USAID stuff and then trying to pull that information off the internet right now. There's no way. There's no way. Well, we had to check it out for ourselves. International assistance projects funded by Global Affairs Canada, returning 0 results. No project identified. Nothing to see here, folks. The lack of transparency of this government is bewildering. It just drives me mad to think back to what was happening in the House of Commons when it was in session, when the Liberals were so quick to point at the Conservatives saying, you're bringing American-style politics north of the border. Meanwhile, they're consistently having connections to the Democratic Party south of the border. Constantly bringing Hillary Clinton to come talk, bringing Bernie Sanders to come talk, doing all the things with all the Democratic representatives. And so they see the debacle that's going on with USAID south of the border and all the chaos Elon Musk is causing with it. And what do? They pull all of their public Global Affairs Canada data. All of them. Any projects they've been funding, gone. We don't know what they've been working on. We don't know what we've been funding. Just unbelievable what they're doing. And to think people like Justin Trudeau, Mark Carney, Chrystia Freeland are saying, no, we want to be upfront with Canadians, scrap the carbon tax. You keep doing crap like this. If it isn't an issue, if there are no problems with the programs that we are funding abroad, why hide it from the public? What is going on? And the reason why I know it's been a huge issue is because here, our team at Elevate have been doing a lot of work in the public accounts data, seeing what we have been funding, looking at different programs we've been funding, things that we could easily cut, and trying to understand where our money is going overseas and as well as here at home. We've been collecting all that data, and we are planning to present it to you fairly soon because it's been thousands and thousands and thousands of lines of data that we've had to go through manually. But to see this really bestows trust in your government, doesn't it? Well, luckily, the internet is undefeated, and there's things called archives. And this page, at least some of it, was archived before it was taken down. And you can take a gander through all the things that we've been funding overseas and the different programs we've been funding overseas. Some you'd agree with, some you disagree with. It doesn't really matter. It's just interesting data to look at. Again, the idea of transparency is also very interesting to us because we are paying higher taxes than ever. Our way of life is diminishing by the day. And normal Canadians are wondering, where is all my tax dollars going? What am I seeing for the amount of money I've been spending? And why is my life getting worse? And then you open up a global affairs page and seeing all the programs that we're funding overseas. People rightfully could be upset by what they're seeing. We're struggling here at home. People are at food banks, can't afford their groceries, can't afford the rent. Yet we're funding these projects? What are we doing here? What is going on? And the fever that Carney likes to talk that US has is making its way to Canada. No, people are just getting more alert to what is happening, and they want to know what's going on with their tax dollars. I'll link this in the comments. Take a look at it. See what your thoughts are. Here's a CBC article detailing the USAID issue, and I will say this. Take it with the finest of grains of salt because it's very anti-Trump. But it gives an idea of what is going on. But the problem is what I have with this article is it just only shows all the projects that they've been funding abroad that are like more humanitarian efforts. They're not talking about the money that went to Gaza for condoms. They didn't talk about the money going to a variety of news sites that was receiving government money. They aren't going to talk about the random funding for LGBTQ causes in Afghanistan, in a country that definitely doesn't hold those ideals. So where did the money go? They're not going to talk about those things. No, they're going to talk about the humanitarian stuff to pull on your heartstrings, but it is still interesting. So take it with the finest of grains of salt. USAID has already disappeared from some landscapes just by the very act of the executive order halting work on existing programs, said Noam Unger, the director of the Sustainable Development and Resilience Initiative at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington. Communities that benefit from health programs and food assistance are particularly feeling the impact, Unger said, adding the gravity of the cuts will only worsen with time. They will act and tarnish U.S. standing, and they will also have implications over time for U.S. economic and national security, given transnational threats associated with underdevelopment around the world, with conflict, with corruption, with trafficking of people and drugs, he said. Among the places where the aid freeze is being felt most keenly is Ukraine, where USAID has invested over $874 million to sustain Ukraine's economy during the war and to lay the groundwork for a strong and swift economic recovery at war's end. Rachel Beatty Riedel, a professor of the director of Cornell University's Center on Global Democracy and Ethics in New York, says the cost of the retreat and humanitarian obligations comes with clear costs both at home and abroad. U.S. security, stability, and prosperity have since the depths of the Cold War has been tied to developmental advancements around the globe. So a lot of these articles you're going to read about USAID is always trying to tug at your heartstrings, but they don't talk about all the things that this money's been going to, and the Americans are done with it. They don't have the money to keep funding all these different conflicts and issues around the globe, as much as the war machine in America would like to. They just don't have it. And earlier in this article, they're saying with U.S. pulling out, that means that Canada's going to have to shoulder the burden to a tune of $15.5 billion. And I understand the thought process, because America has traditionally wanted to have global dominance, global control. So you have to control specific parts of the globe to make sure you are staying there and keeping things straight, making sure things are going in the way of democracy. And that's always been the argument. But now there's going to be a drastic pullback from all of it. And Trump is saying, no more. We're freezing US aid until we figure out what's going on and get this all sorted. It's been they've been cutting back in every area. That's why they've been so intense with Canada over our negotiations. Part of it was about the border. It's also about the economy. And that's why it is so frustrating to see Canada react in the way they have, pulling the global affairs accounts data completely offline. And it is really frustrating because, as I showed you, we have ways to track down that information before it was pulled off the internet. We have that data. We know what they're looking at. And we will find out over the days, and we'll look into it now. Because you're trying to hide it, we're going to look even deeper now. Seeing what you're trying to hide. Melanie Jolie, Mary-Ange, we want to see what you guys are hiding. What is going on? What is the beast that someone like Mark Carney is going to allow to keep going? We want to know. This is the issue with this government. They keep poking us like we're stupid. If you just left us alone, things would have been fine. But now you keep doing things that are forcing us to look into it. And we're going to look into it very closely and very sharply. So be ready, because we're going to have information over the coming days of what is going on with our global affairs, why they're hiding this information, and what is happening with the programs that we are funding abroad. Have yourself a good one. I'm out.